What's up, Fin fans? I'm Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease, and never mind the chat. I say call 988 after this one.
Hey, I'm Zgonina. I'm Zgonina.
I'm Kyle Krabs, and the Dolphins just lost by 25 points to a team that hadn't scored more than 17 in about a whole season's worth of games.
Fins up! It's the Dolphins Squad. Everything Miami Dolphins, every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from South Beach. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Sunshine, speed, and squad goals. The Dolphins Squad Show starts now.
Oh, boy, fellas, 31-6 at Cleveland against the Browns team with a historically bad offense, and they didn't need that offense today. The way the Dolphins turned the ball over, the penalties, field position throughout the game, just a horrible, horrible performance by the Miami Dolphins, and you see it right there, Miami no-show, and I am going to start this right away because they can't wait to get at me in the chat. But Kyle, your fandom is calling you, brother. They want you to lose your mind. They can't wait to hear your reaction. I mean, this is it. You bleed the Dolphins colors, brother. And here after this one, I'm even feeling for you. 31-6 the final at Cleveland, and it could have been 100 times worse if the Browns had any offense whatsoever. So that first little headline you see right there alongside your handsome face, Miami no-show, and I'll give it to you from there.
Yeah, so where do we want to start? Do we want to start with 1 of 13 on third downs? Do we want to start with 3.8 yards per play? Do we want to start with 3.4 yards per pass, or 7 combined sacks and interceptions thrown in this football game? Do we want to start with, 70 yards of penalties in the first 32 minutes of the football game, many of which came at the most inopportune times to extend Browns drives or put yourself on 1st and 15? And you know what 1st and 15 means in 2024 and 2025 for the Miami Dolphins. That means we're throwing passes 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage on 1st and 15 to try to get a cheap couple yards on a gain. And everybody knows what's coming at this point, so there's no surprises. And then we don't catch them, so they end up being fumbles because they're backwards passes. So now you're just compounding the issues even further by throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. This team got absolutely smoked. 4 turnovers. This is an embarrassment. This is probably the worst loss of the Mike McDaniel era, if I had to pick. Because I was there for the Monday night game when they blew the 13-point lead to the Titans in 2023. And that was kind of like what everybody looks at as like, hey, the day the music died as it pertained to like this regime and this brain trust, because it ended up costing you the division that year in a home playoff game. This was brutal. And they didn't look prepared. They didn't tackle. They didn't execute. They're burning timeouts with 1 minute and 15 seconds left in the first half, and you know it missing field goals. Now you get bailed out with a penalty from Cleveland. This was an embarrassment, and I don't know how you pick the pieces up after a game like this, and everybody just pulls back together and pretends like it didn't happen, or just transitions to the next game. This is one of those ones for me, like, you got to take a look in the mirror, and there's got to be some accountability that gets passed around with a game like this, because this is an untenable situation what we have right now.
Dolphins Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, live on YouTube right after the games. Then we upload, you download Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher, Podbean, and of course, Roku. Today's episode sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And Z, we'll get to the quarterback in a minute. We'll get to the coaching. We have a long show here, but first and foremost, before we point fingers at any one player, let's just talk about a whole entire team, a whole entire staff, a whole entire plane from Miami that just did not show up in Cleveland. You can't point the finger anywhere, but you can point it everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the game started off, I was like, oh, here we go. We got 3 and out, like, oh, something's going to good happen. Maybe that shouldn't have happened. Maybe they said, oh, maybe we got it going today, and they didn't. It was a downhill ever since then. The turnovers, the bad play, bad exchanges, it was just one thing after another. Holdings, every special teams, it seems like, on our return game. I mean, one thing after another. You're not going to win games that way.
No, you're not. And I'm already getting it in the chat, so I'm going to come right out. And I'm here for my people, the ones who love me and the ones who hate me. But man, oh man, there's a lot of venom coming my way telling me to defend Tua now. And I can't, guys. Kyle, I cannot defend this guy at all today. He did not show up. Can't throw a wet ball. Can't throw a cold ball. Can't throw the ball down the field at all anymore. And he's getting a lot of heat around the country. Even his old coach took a little shot at him, and Nick Saban on College Game Day saying, hey, I was surprised by what Tua said, and he was proud of him for when he came back. But, when you come back after the fact and try to correct yourself, and I just did not see anything at all. His first 3 interception game in 3 years, right? And what a disaster. I mean, you had the fumble on the kickoff return, 2 turnovers. You had the penalties. You had all kinds of things going wrong, but obviously Tua Tagovailoa is the man in the crosshairs right now because he played about as bad a game as any quarterback could ever play today.
Yeah, it was. You always want to try to be mad at the right things, but a game like this, I mean, did anybody on the team touch a wet ball all week at practice? It didn't look like it.
You live in
we couldn't snap the ball, so we're dropping snaps. We can't throw the ball down the field. We don't have accuracy. You come out of halftime and your 1st and 10, your first play call, the second half, you're down 11 points, is you're running a field out to Devon Achane, and he sails the throw, and it's a pick 6. And if you can't hit that throw, now you could probably get into a conversation about throwing to the boundary, and that gets into the natural limitations of Tua Tagovailoa as a player. But, man, just the execution, not there. And I don't think anybody should be absolved of every single person in the locker room, every single person in the organization. They all have to wear this as an egregiously bad showing. And it is what it is. There's no defending anybody. It was at the point I reached about the 10-minute mark of the third quarter. I was like, forget trying to win the game. I'm just watching to see who are guys that are playing like they still care. That's where I was at with individual players.
Did you see any of them? I wasn't sure myself. And I hate to say that, Z, I want to give you this after Kyle because I hate to say these things about a pro athlete when I never did it myself. But did you see any, Kyle? It was tough.
There are individual performances of guys that play with pride, but it's not enough. And when the collective performance looks the way that it does, I think that's a damning indictment on the entire football operation right now.
Yeah, and you had the dropped interception by Rasul Douglas. You had the fumble by Tua that Achane recovered. You had 3 punts inside the 10-yard line. Ridiculous penalty after ridiculous penalty, and the rules suck. The penalty on Zach Sealers, I'm still going to say that's ridiculous. It was awful. The rule's awful. The call's good because under these awful rules. But Z, it's tough to point fingers at the defense today. I'll say this, you're a defensive player. And man, I found myself watching Jason Taylor highlights around the third quarter, like his career touchdowns, because I had to see something positive. But Z, the defense really got hosed today, man. I mean, you're talking about a pick 6 that Tua throws. Another one gets taken down to the 2-yard line, and they're in your territory constantly. Every time the offense gets the ball, they start going backwards with penalties and these little dump offs that go for negative yardage. So is it fair to throw the defense in there with the offense as bad as the offense was today?
Yeah, I mean, we had some dumb penalties. That's the problem that bothers me is the penalties. If we didn't have penalties, we're off the field a few times early in the game. And, I think on their first scoring drive, we gave them 2 penalties to keep the drive going, if I remember correctly. We can't have that. You got to, go out there and play flawless football because we're not that good right now on defense. But even for the whole year, our biggest problem is the penalties. The bonehead mistakes. We had one game where we're going for strips on the ball instead of tackling. Then the penalty fest has started since then. Until we clean that up, you can't let these teams, get drives, especially a young quarterback that we were going against today. You're giving him chances and chances to, to get a good rhythm in the game. And he did. They did a good job moving him out of the pocket, away from trouble, But again, you got to clean up the penalties. Holy cow.
Just really bad. And the one that I'd point to more than any of them, and I hate to single one of them out because there were so many. And when I look at the stat sheet real quick, I'll just give you the number on it as we move along here on your Dolphin Squad Show. You're talking about 11 penalties for 103 yards, Kyle. And it's hard to pick a worst one out of those, but Jalen Phillips hitting the quarterback about 5 minutes after he hands the ball off. That to me is like, that's inexcusable. That's one for example. Zach Sealer's maybe not so bad, but still got to play within the rules, and that's a 15-yarder at a key point. But I mean, just to have such lapses in focus and concentration, that is preparation. And preparation, you know where I'm going with this. It's not just an ointment for hemorrhoids. Preparation H, preparation.
That's well done. Yeah.
That's coaching.
I need some preparation H for my eyeballs right now is what I need. So these penalties, I'm glad you mentioned these penalties because I logged every single one of them. Special teams, holding on Julius Brents. You get a touchback. It gets put back to the 10-yard line. It's the first penalty you had of the game. Special teams, you have a holding on Iafetu Melifonwu. It's a 10-yard penalty, but the starting field position went from the -46 to the -20. It's a 26-yard penalty when it's all said and done from where they enforced the penalty. Special teams, unnecessary roughness on D. Eskridge. And, don't get me started on D. Eskridge because I saw you running through there with one hand on that football, running real loose through that traffic like it was balmy and 85 degrees outside when it was a wet football. Yep. Don't get me started on D. Eskridge. 15-yard penalty. That personal foul puts you on the Browns on the plus side of the 50-yard line. So those are 3 egregious penalties on special teams. Defense, illegal contact on 3rd and 14. 5 yards automatic first down. That's the one that Z was talking about. The Zach Sealer personal foul. You had a 3rd and long. It was going to be 3rd and 8. You had a personal roughing the passer. That's 15 yards. You want Dylan Gabriel in 3rd and longs. You killed it because you caught him high. I get it. He's a short guy. I get it. You're a tall guy. You're trying to make a play. Tough luck, maybe. Minka Fitzpatrick, pass interference. I thought that was the most ticky-tack penalty of all of them.
Yeah.
You had an interception on the play. And it negates an interception.
Next play, they score from 46 yards out.
Yep.
Next play.
And if I have to watch one more defensive tackle stop their feet, I'm glad Adam Archuleta called it out on the broadcast. He said, you're watching these DBs try to tackle in space, and they're flat-footed, they're waiting, they're not coming downhill, they're giving themselves up to have a two-way go with these running backs that have momentum coming at them, and it's slick. You got to try to reignite yourself and bring momentum, and it's setting yourself up for failure. So just the offensive penalties, you have 3 consecutive first downs there in the second quarter where you had a false start to go to 1st and 15, you had a false start to go to 1st and 15, and then you had a sack on 1st and 10 that was a 6-yard loss. And then out of the half, your 1st and 10 was a pick 6 the other way. You getting outscored on first downs, 7-0. So it's every phase, and it's just catastrophic errors. Like it's really hard to sit here and digest it, man. It really
From the point of the Fitzpatrick penalty that took away the pick, they run it back. It's on the next play, they score from 46 yards out. And then from there, you have the Eskridge fumble, and they score again. It's 17-3, man, before you know it. And then you come out, you get the field goal, Z, and it's 17-6. All right, we get the ball to start the second half, and Tua throws it out in the flat, which he's fallen in love with because I'm convinced now he can't throw the ball anywhere else at this point. He throws it out in the flat, and Achan's covered like a glove. In the chat, they're saying it's off his hands, and it's not. Somebody said it's not Tua's fault, but
that ball placement is absolutely Tua Tagovailoa's fault. That's ridiculous.
He's covered like a blanket. There's another dude right there behind him, and he gave Achan no chance on that one. So you come out at halftime, it's 17-6. You're thinking we can go down and score, get in this game. It's a 4-point game. You still got a rookie QB, and the Browns' offense is bad. Make no mistake about it. The Browns' offense is bad. They did not play well at all today, or this would have been a lot worse. Z. So that's why in the beginning I said maybe a little bit of credit to the Dolphins defense for somehow keeping them in the game for a while. But when a team gets off the plane and plays a game like this from top to bottom, I mean, and you're talking players, coaches, everyone, much like the University of Miami against Louisville, the whole entire team stuck up the joint. Terrible football weekend in South Florida. What is there anybody on that plane that can even have their head up right now? And how in the world, because, you're wondering, someone mentioned it earlier, how in the world can you even think about starting to bounce back from a loss like this?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure nobody's got their head up, on the flight home. Because, they said they came off the plane. They came off flat. They came out of the game flat. Even though we had that first 3 and out as a defense, it was still flat. I thought our run defense was somewhat better, except for a couple long runs that kind of skewed the numbers. But again, it wasn't like we're going to a high-powered offense, But we were digging our hole out of somewhere. But my question is, did the guys give up on Tua?
Ooh.
after
That
what
would
he
be
said in the
inexcusable in
paper.
itself, right? I mean, you can't just give up on your quarterback. You can't give up at all, right?
I hate to say it, but I've played on a team that the guys gave up on their quarterback. And then there's a lot of blocking issues happening on the offense. You know, I hope they didn't. But he took some shots last weekend. This team is in an uproar right now. So did they or didn't they? I hope not. But, something to think about moving forward.
And to Z, your point, think about them talking on the broadcast about some of the things that they were talking to players on the team about, the amount of time that was invested into talking about these things from last Sunday. And I guess, they kind of alluded to Tua being quick about it when they met with Tua and being eager to turn the page and this, that. And it's like, well, no, you got to wear this, dude. You got to wear the egg on your face. And if the guys in the locker room feel that as well, I don't know how that's going to become definitive unless they come out and they make a quarterback change. But it is interesting that Quinn Ewers ended up getting promoted to the backup quarterback this week.
Yeah, yep. Notice that first thing today when they promoted him up and made Zach the emergency QB. They must have known something like this was going to happen, right? That he was going to get in the game.
Well, I don't know if they hoped that it was going to happen like this. Yeah. But
Kyle, why else?
But certainly, you certainly get the feel that they want to see some more of him. But I mean, you're 1-6, right? Like let's not act like Quinn Ewers is going to come in like Brock Purdy did and save everybody's job because he's going to ball out, right? Like
when Marino took over for Woodley,
right.
What was that, week 12 with Danny? Week 10? I can't remember. I was 11 years old. It's a long time ago. But man, I mean, you don't have any Marino on this team for sure. Not even close. This is your Dolphin Squad show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Unfortunately, today, your team every day. That's Kyle Krabs, your host of Locked On Dolphins podcast. Boy, that group therapy is going to be fun this week, Kyle. And you got Z, Jeff Zgonina, former Miami Dolphins defensive lineman who played on some real good teams, real good defenses here for sure. But man, not a whole lot to be positive about today. On the other side, the weapons were MIA today. Not only was Tua turning the ball over everywhere, not only were they dinking and dunking, they could not get the ball to anybody who could do anything with it other than one run from Achane. We'll pick that up on the other side. This is, again, your Dolphin Squad show on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I get a chance to tell you about Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply do not work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools, much like the Dolphins, with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. Yeah, I know what those words mean. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, hey, it's here tomorrow. You can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at Rippling, RIPPLING.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions, they apply.
All right. I got to stop reading the press conference quotes and got to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is a fun, simple way to add more exciting times in football, especially when you're trying to watch the Dolphins. You pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen passing yards, Saquon Barkley rushing touchdowns, Tua Tagovailoa interceptions, and you are in the game. I love how quick it is. You can add a lineup in under a minute. You can put your stacks together with an injury reboot feature. If your player leaves early and does not return, it will not count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
All right, there we go. Nice job, Kyle, on that spot. It's Grease, it's Z, it's Kyle. The musical spots are. Look at this. We're just rotating around the room. Somehow I always stay over to this side, though. But 31-6 the final. Miami no-show. 2 of the turnovers. The picks. He actually fumbled the ball, too, and Achane recovered it. Eskridge with a penalty and a bad fumble on a kickoff. It started snowballing, even though it was just raining in Cleveland. And next thing you know, the Dolphins are 1-6. This was maybe not their worst loss. It has to be their worst loss of the season because it's a 1-5 team, but the Indianapolis game was pretty bad too. I can't say anything this week, guys, because, week after week, they're in games. It's close. They have leads late. Those are things you can talk about. Those are things you can build on. Those are things you could say, hey, the offense gave you the lead late. The defense gave it away. You give up a special teams touchdown against New England that kills your momentum. And you can always point to those things and say, hey, they're in the games. They're showing up prepared. The coaches still have these guys hungry and wanting to play. And Z, you cannot say that today. This is the first game of the season where you can actually say that nobody was ready from the jump on this team.
No, all 3 phases.
That's it.
That's the bed. I trying to think of a polite word to say.
I'm just Jeff Zgonina. That's all I can say.
That's all I can say. I'm speechless. I mean, I did not want to watch the game. It got to that point, which is hard, to say that, but I was just like, oh my God. It's just like the levee broke and it just, bleh. I mean, every year, every team usually has a game like that. Okay. But when you're 1-5 and you go and play another 1-5 team, it's not supposed to happen then. It's supposed to be like a medium team or a really good team comes in, and you're halfway decent and you get wiped. But not when when you're both teams are struggling to find a win, you don't come off the bus and you lay an egg like that. That's that's inexcusable.
Inexcusable. And as far as the team stats go, Kyle, I want to get to you in a minute, but first downs close to even, 15-12 Cleveland. Total yards 219 to 206. Miami actually won that one. Passing yards, 120 to 102. The Dolphins outpassed Dylan Gabriel, who's terrible, by the way. Shedeur Sanders should be embarrassed by not being able to get on the field on this team. Maybe he should find another line of work. I think they both should. And Cleveland inexplicably trades Joe Flacco, and their defense is really good. But the things that really stood out, obviously, the penalties, 11 for 103 for Miami, and then 4 turnovers to none for Cleveland. But when I'm looking at the play-by-play, Kyle, and then I want to hit the stats real quick, then I want to toss to you about the lack of the weapons being used today. But 6 plays and 62 yards was their first scoring drive, a field goal. So that wasn't a bad drive. But the one before that, 6 plays, 16 yards, punt. No plays, no yards, fumble. 5 plays, -1 yard, punt. 9 plays, 32 yards, field goal. 1 play, interception. 3 plays, -9 yards, punt. 12 plays, 64 yards, downs. 3 plays, -2 yards, pick. 2 plays, 11 yards, pick. 3 plays, -5 yards, pick. 9 plays, 32 yards, downs. Do you count 3 drives with negative yardage? Not just the picks, not just the turnover. 3 drives with negative yardage, 3 and outs.
I can do you one better if you'd like.
I'd love it.
So I want to take you from the 43-second mark in the first quarter until the 10-minute and 8-second mark of the fourth quarter. Okay, so this is about 35 minutes of game clock. This is what I did for the last 10 minutes of the game because, like Z, I couldn't bring myself to sit here and just really authentically, intensely watch the game as it's happening. The Dolphins' offense on first down, okay, from the 43-second mark in the first quarter until 10:08 left in the fourth quarter, they had 16 opportunities to run a play on first down, and they had 0 yards on those 16 plays combined. When you take the penalties, when you take the lost yards, -1 run, Ollie Gordon, -5 on a false start, 2 yards because you threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, -3 on an outside zone pro tip, I wouldn't be running too many outside runs when the entire point of zone rushes is to stick your foot in the ground and cut back inside when it's raining like that. So you lose 3 yards there, -5 yards on a false start, -6 on a sack, 4-yard run to the right, -9 on a fumbled snap. You have a pick 6 on a 1st and 10, 0-yard run inside between the tackles, 8-yard run with Ollie Gordon. It was nice to see that he dressed. They gave him a couple carries there in the second half, -3 yards on another outside zone run to the outside, 3 yards on an inside run, 2 yards on a pass to the left, 2 yards on a run inside, 11 yards on a first down pass, and another interception. So you had 2 more turnovers than you had yards of offense on first down across 35 minutes of game clock. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Z, I mean, what is that, Z? I mean, this is not NFL football.
No, it's not. I mean, like I said, it was hard to watch. I didn't get it. It seemed like the run game was clicking, and then they got away from it. And they go, like, Kyle said earlier, those passes, those like little screen dump offs, or what do you want to call them, check downs, and those get you nothing,
Right. Because everybody feels him coming, right? Whether you put Achane out there in the slot out of a bunch,
that's why
whether you motion him out of the backfield and he turns around to throw him out there real quick, it's become such a predictable piece of the offense. And Z, to your point, like Cleveland, Grease, you went over the Browns' offensive production in the game. It was unsexy, but you knew with the wind and the rain coming into this game, hey, you're going to have to win ugly. You're going to have to just grind it out and play field position and tackle well and accept, kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts and maybe slow bleed a team with your offense and take 3-yard runs and wait for them to pop into big runs. And that's what Cleveland did. And to your point, Z, you had an explosive run, you had some momentum there, and then you just stopped running the ball. Mm-hmm. And and then the game got away from you, and then you had to pass the ball. And it's a very familiar script for too many games that this team has played the last couple of years, where you knew you weren't going to be humming with your timing-based offense, and you're putting guys in positions where they have to make tougher catches because it's raining, or you have to kind of change the way you play the game. And I didn't feel like they came in committed to change the way they play the game.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers, guys. Tua, 12 of 23, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a QB rating of 24.1. This has to be the worst game he's ever played. It's definitely top 2 or 3, maybe the worst. Quinn Ewers, 5 out of 8 for 53 yards. First pass was picked off and dropped by the Browns. Achane, 13 for 62, 6.3 per carry, but one of those was a 46-yard run. So take that away, and he really didn't go anywhere. Ollie Gordon, 5 carries for 11 yards. But this is where it really gets alarming, guys. And Kyle, I'll start with you because this might be the crux of the therapy show. I mean, D. Eskridge is your leading receiver, yardage-wise, 2 catches for 45 yards. One of them was from Ewers late in the game. Malik Washington, 5 for 30. Tanner Connor, 1 for 28. Nick Westbrook-Akine, 3 for 16. Are you noticing anything here, fellas? Where the heck is Jalen Waddle? Where the heck is Waller, who got hurt in the game? They're nowhere on this stat sheet, man. Jalen Waddle had 1 catch for 15 yards. 1 catch. And they look so out of sync, Kyle, Tua and Waddle. He had one where Tua threw deep and Waddle broke the route off. They had to burn a timeout because the receivers didn't know where they were going later in the game. And I just don't understand what the hell that's all about, to have receivers not knowing where they're going in week 7 and to have a guy like Waddle break off a route. He's your number 1 receiver and your quarterback throws it deep. How can they be that out of sync?
Yeah, so I don't remember. I think he canned that play at the line of scrimmage. So you're given 2 plays in the play call in the huddle, and I guess whatever the play call is, it's not on the same page when you check it at the line of scrimmage. So that's the miscommunication on the deep shot down the field. But that goes back to when we're doing the PrizePicks reading. I'm sitting here reading the quotes coming out of the press conferences, and Tua does his press conference. And this is courtesy of Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald.
Today. Oh my God. Do we even want to know? Wait, brace yourself. Remember, I started the show by saying call 988. I warned you.
Tua said the operation, including players going the wrong way out of the huddle, must be better, and he can't put a figure on one thing causing the problems. This has been a problem for 3 years.
Dry
guys don't know where to line up.
Because Kyle, they don't go to meetings, remember?
But it's never his fault. It's never his fault. Him and Carson Beck. It's never his fault, Kyle.
Well, to be fair, he said, I'm not proud of his own play. Said, I'm not proud of my play, how I've gone about things this year. I've got to be a lot better. So you get the quote in there that's the Tua-centric. But to your point, the entire messaging of the offseason is it's year 4 in the offense. We're trying to be mastering the offense. The mastery of the offense was a phrase that was used in OTAs and in the spring. And what do your last year it was we're trying to push the limits of what this offense is capable of being. And it ended up being an offense that ran on training wheels because they couldn't run the ball with consistency because their offensive line was horrible. But that was part of the football ideology that this team embraced was, hey, we're going to win with angles in the run game. And I know that's the Shanahan outside zone book to a T. But Sean McVay learned, and they went out and they spent $31 million a year on a pair of guards. That's the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur, and they just gave Aaron Banks $19 million in free agency to play offensive guard for him. Like, all these other coaches off the same tree kind of found out the hard way. Well, you can't really just win with angles, right? That's how the Patriots go up and they play 6 men on line of scrimmage against the Rams in the Super Bowl against McVay, and they can't run their outside zone. They don't have an answer for it, and therefore they can't run their play action passing off of it because you're just out leveraged and out structured with the defensive front. So you found out the hard way, but now you're working on your mastery of the offense. And guys still don't know where to line up. Like it doesn't, I can't wrap my head around it. I can't.
And you're talking about a coach who's an offensive genius, right? And so therein lies the problem. So you see it there on the screen. What now? I mean, and then we have the Atlanta preview, and who knows what's going to happen there. But what now is a big question. And it's a prevailing question because if I'm the owner of this team right now, someone's getting off the plane, but they're not going back to the facility, and they're getting their stuff mailed to them. Someone. I don't know who it is right now. We're going to talk about that on the other side. It's your Dolphin Squad Show, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. 31-6, the Browns beat the Dolphins. Fins fall to 1-6 in a season that keeps on going from bad to worse. Unlike our friends at Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents available, Napa leather upholstery as well. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season with Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And I mean, literally just had to laugh at that one, guys. Like our players, we sweat every detail. And we just talked about guys not knowing where to line up. And I had to read that spot with a straight face, and I couldn't do it. But sometimes all you can do is laugh, Kyle. I mean, you are as big a Dolphin fan as anybody in this chat. You're as big a Dolphin fan as anybody I've known. And that's saying a lot, man. And, you might need a couple cocktails after this one, brother. You doing okay?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing fine. People forget my media roots in football were rooted in the NFL draft with some of the guys that kind of helped me get into the space and some of my early education. So I've been covering the draft since 2013, and I had a big draft, big soft spot for the draft because a lot of times the Dolphins would be in a position where you had me thinking about the draft by Halloween, and that's where we are right now. So I'm sitting here looking at Tankathon, and the Dolphins right now, if the season ended today, would have the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. So I'm going to be just fine finding consolation. The question is really, what now, right?
Who's going to make the pick? Do you have any confidence in Chris Grier to make that pick, honestly?
So, I would not. No, I would have made the change with Chris Grier last year. As far as the organization desperately needs a fresh identity with people that are all on the same page and what it looks like. And that's, I feel that very strongly. And I felt from a football operation standpoint, Chris Grier's kind of like where you get into the controversy with the meetings, and Mike doesn't think players only meetings is a reason why the players aren't losing games, but Tua thinks it's a big deal that they aren't going. But Mike says they've done everything that I've asked them to do. So I really don't, it is what it is. And he's sending a message, right? The entire identity of the organization is just kind of feels like it's I'm doing what I need to do. That's what it feels like. Chris Greer says, I'm shopping for somebody else's groceries for the coach of the team. And Mike says, well, the players are doing what I'm asking them to do for meetings. And Tua say, well, I'm showing up to meetings and nobody else is showing up. You know what I mean? It's just like, it feels like it's become such a pass the buck. And that's why this game feels like such a pivotal point for me. Where is accountability? Whether that comes from the owner, whether that comes from the GM to cut a player, whether that comes from the coach to say something to somebody or sit somebody down or bench somebody, where's the accountability? That's, for me, the big question as far as what now is. I want to know what accountability looks like within the organization, because you can't let games like this just roll and act like it's a part of the standard season.
I see a team right now completely devoid of leadership. I don't see leadership from the head coach anymore. He's timid and meek and meager at the podium, talking to the media, no authority in his voice, no inflection. Guys, and then you got Tua, people are calling him a dry snitch, and he's passing the buck on everybody. Even Nick Saban said he couldn't believe it was so out of character for what Tua did after that last game. And you got now, Jeff, a 1-6 team. And I know you've played on a lot of teams, man, and I know you've been through situations like this. Somebody's head's got to roll, doesn't it? I mean, are we at that point now?
I mean, we're getting there, but first it's going to probably start with the players. You're going to start seeing, different people in the lineups, just because, some coaches are going to try to, save their job and say, hey, I got this guy out there, and maybe ownership wants to see some of these younger players go out there. So now, who knows what you're going to see next week? I mean, eventually heads are going to roll. Now, the bye week's not for a few more weeks. So around then, I think it'll heat up on, heads falling.
Yeah, and Kyle, when I look at the chat right now, Andy says Kyle Krabs GM, Chris Shula head coach. Let's freaking go.
No, I'm nowhere near qualified to be the general manager of the team. But
no,
what I do know is that this group is no longer working, and you maximize the effort of the build. And you kind of came in with kind of a soft transition, soft reset. And I think the conversation does need to be had, no matter how frustrated Mike McDaniel is with the idea of trade rumors. But if you have guys that are expiring contracts that you don't think are going to be a piece of the puzzle, whether that's Jalen Phillips or whether that's Bradley Chubb, who's not necessarily on an expiring contract, but like there's some interest in some pass rushers, and it sounds like there's reports the teams have been inquiring about those kinds of guys. Like, I think that's another part of the what's next. And whether it comes from Stephen Ross or whether it comes from Brandon Shore, who's a part of the football operation, who's kind of the guy who does the books and the salary cap and the contract negotiations. Like, they do have a little bit of a checks and balance type element to their front office. In a perfect world, like, I would not have Chris Greer do it. I know we talked about that last week as far as a couple of guys that have some GMing experience in their front office, but like, I think it would be grossly irresponsible to not come out of a game like this, have the honest conversation and say, hey, if we get a couple of guys that aren't going to be here or don't have a long-term future in Miami, like, what can we get for those players? Now, I wouldn't trade players in their primes that can make life easier for a new young quarterback that comes in, if that's the direction that they choose to go, like a Jalen Waddle or like Achane. I wouldn't do either one of those two, but some of those guys on the edge where there's big contracts to be had there and there's a demand for it at the trade deadline, I think guys like that, like you have to start to explore that and be more serious about it, I think.
That's Kyle Krabs, Jeff Zgonina, Jim Grieshaber, call me Grease. And, when I look at what Greer's done, and he's had an embarrassment of riches with draft picks that he did nothing with, and he hasn't hit on any except Achane. And Achane was a big hit. I'll give him that. It's a big hit in the draft. They did a great job picking him. And you can't hit on all of them, but it's starting to look like Patrick Paul's coming around year 2, having a pretty good year out there. But, other than that, you're just not seeing it right now. And you're seeing guys get hurt. You're seeing defensive backs not making tackles, dropped interceptions, penalties all over the field, turnovers everywhere. You're not getting your ball to your weapons. So I guess the question is, do you let these guys finish the year? And who do you think would be a good fit? I mean, I hate to even do this because it feeds into the speculation, but everybody's talking about Rex Ryan to the point where he denied it on ESPN. And I think if you think this is bad, bring in Rex and it'll be a hell of a lot worse. I don't know who in the hell would ever want that guy to come in here. I'll say it again, Z. I'll say it again. John Gruden. There's only one guy who can fix this team. You're not getting rid of Tua. You got to bring somebody in here who can try to do something with him. Wait, what did you say, Kyle? hold on.
I said there's plenty more than one guy that can fix this
Yeah.
football team.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, just out of the ones who I'm thinking of off the top of my head, John Gruden's the guy who pops to the top of my head. Because I feel like with the money that you owe Tua, his track record with the QBs over the years, obviously that would be good. And I don't think you're going to get Bruce Arians to come in here.
No, but I mean, who says John wants to come here? Maybe John takes a couch job.
He also has that outstanding litigation with the league too that I think it really complicates the idea that he's going to be an attractive hire.
So did Jerry Jones. I mean, I know he's an owner, but you know what I mean? Like it's just and he's winning, by the way. The Nevada Supreme Court voted 7-0 for discovery against the NFL, and maybe he sticks it to the NFL in more ways than one. I don't know. But if I'm Stephen Ross, everything's on the table, man. Because I'll tell you this, Z, and you know this because you played here. You played in places like this. This is a fair weather fan city. I'm going to get killed for this one in the chat. I can hardly wait. This is the biggest fair weather fan city I've ever seen in my entire life. The Marlins won World Series. Nobody showed up. The Hurricanes were winning national championships with 40 NFL legends, future NFL legends on their roster, having 20,000 fans in there against teams like Rutgers with those players. This is the biggest fair weather city in America. It's not going to be long, Z, before this place is half full. Nobody's buying jerseys. Nobody's doing anything. The revenues go way down. And at that point is when the owners actually have to make that move because you hit them in the pocketbook. And I'll say it again, fair weather city, fans start turning. No one's showing up at the games. I mean, you got to do something.
Yeah, you do. But again, at that point, no matter if they keep the coach or fire the coach, no one's going to come to the games, right? I mean, they already made up their mind. The season's over. They're not going to come, no matter who the head coach is. You know, the owner's going to fire the coach, but they're going to, you think they're going to fill the stands the next week with the interim?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but the bloodthirst and the bloodlust, it has to be quenched, right, Kyle?
It doesn't have to, but yeah, I mean, you got to really sit here and take the beating that you're taking from fans. I will say this. There's a lot of really energetic fans with this team. I agree with you. They will tune out and not watch. And I've experienced that in losing streaks where I don't think anybody that's in our comments right after a game like this would necessarily qualify because they care enough to hop in here and experience this with us. But I have experienced it. And you will experience that if you are the team, if you let this draw itself out throughout the entirety of the season. But there's the ones who are, I would put our diehard fans against anybody's because they're so fed up. And I think that's where you almost have to be more worried about those fans than the ones who are just going to throw their hands up and say, oh, I'll go watch the Panthers instead. Right? Like the ones who are fed up and they're going to be loud about it. Those would be the ones I would be the most worried about if I was Stephen Ross.
You have anything from Mike, Kyle, yet? I see a couple things here. He talked about self-inflicted wounds from penalties as being a key issue. Talked about the team's overall lack of discipline and that they're facing scrutiny after the blowout defeat. This is all AI right here. He's under pressure to improve the team's standing. I mean, do you got anything else from him?
Yeah, I got an interesting one from Marcel Louis Jacques from ESPN. Important work week for a few Dolphins. And the direct quote is, if you are negatively impacting the team routinely, I have no choice but to assess a different player, and I have to coach a lot better as well.
Okay. All right. What are you thinking when you hear that, Z?
I don't know. Obviously, he's got some more problems with some people in the building, So everybody's like, we always have to coach better. That's always, as a coach, you always have to go in and try to solve the problem for the players.
Did he say it with conviction, or did he say it like Hooks from Police Academy again?
Hard to say. I'm just reading the text. I'm not sure. But if you are negatively impacting the team routinely, I have no choice but to assess a different player. That is a very interesting choice of words.
And you wonder who he's talking about, Z. That has to be, I mean, it could be at everyone. It could be at a few. It could be at one or two, right? You never know.
Well, I mean, it depends what he means by how you're affecting it. Is that through bad play or your mouth? So that's a whole nother topic to talk about, because it could be bad locker room guy, or it could be someone that is doing stuff on the field, either penalties or turnovers or, stuff like that. And you got to, take a guy off the field for a while to let him think about it.
Z, how many times in your career were you on a team like this at this point? Coaching and playing?
Quite a few, to be honest. And
what was the best way it was handled, and what was the worst way that you remember? Hate Hate to put you
Sure.
on the spot, but not really.
Well, I mean, I've seen it where they got rid of the quarterback, sent him out of the building,
Which team was that?
Atlanta.
Okay.
With Jeff George, June Jones years,
Oh God, yeah. Wow.
So
bad.
yeah. So, but again, I mean, it's a young player, old player, like, and even with some of my bad years when I was an older player, it's almost over. So I never gave up. I always went out and gave it my all, every weekend and week out, every meeting, every practice, because I knew every day was going to be the end soon. So you just hope that the guys in the locker room do that, because if you, again, I keep saying, if you shut it down, you may not get another chance in this league. Now, a lot of these cats are playing for to stay on this team or to find another job next year, because if you shut it down and you start putting bad tape out there, you may not get a chance. I don't care who you are, unless you're maybe 5 guys on the team because they were drafted high, have a chance because they were drafted high as a second chance. But a lot of these other cats, you go 1-16, it's hard to get a job. You're waiting until after the draft to sign a contract and hope you can do something in training camp, because you're going as a camp body, and you better fight your ass off to make 53 or a practice squad to be elevated at some point during the season.
Oh, and Zeke, to your point on that, I think about a guy like Willie Gay, who left Kansas City, went to New Orleans. He's used a little bit out of position last year, but signed a minimum deal with Miami this year, and they don't even trust him to get on the field. Mm-hmm. And that was after a really good training camp and an impactful preseason. So sometimes that usage and that film, whether you're put in a good position or not, it sticks with you. And I think it's very apparent at this stage where, you had Dotson out last week and they went to KJ Britt, and Joe Barry said, well, Britt's the backup for Tyrell Dotson, but Anthony Weaver's been talking about for a month that he needs to find more opportunities to get Willie Gay on the field. And then you had injury linebacker and it still didn't happen. So they have a lot of guys like that who signed these 1-year deals, who weren't 35-year-old veterans like last year with Jordan Poyer and with Calais Campbell, but guys that are 27, 28, have a chip on their shoulder. Their last stop didn't work out very well. And they are very motivated to play well, to continue to get those opportunities in the league. And it's guys like that you would expect when you turn on the film. Hey, if I'm looking for guys that are playing hard, I expect it to be guys like that. And then you want it to be the guys that are your top players because they're your top players. But I expect to continue to see those players pop up on tape for Miami, because you don't want this to be it, because it's not going to get a lot better this year. This is kind of who this team is. They've told us the last couple of weeks who they are as a team.
They absolutely have. And, it's crazy too. And we're going to talk about the Falcons game on the other side, which could be a lot worse than this one if you're looking at what the Falcons have been doing a little bit lately. And I don't know what they're doing today at this point, but on the road at Atlanta next. And I don't even know what to think about that game right now. I'm still trying to process what I just saw. Like Jack Buck, I don't believe what I just saw, except that was the Kirk Gibson home run. How about Shohei Ohtani, by the way, with the 10 strikeouts and the 3 homers? Send the Dodgers to the World Series. That was a Kirk Gibson home run in the Dodgers World Series against the A's that Jack Buck said, I don't believe what I just saw. It made me think of that. This is Dolphin Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Random thoughts from a cluttered mind. I think that's a Greg Cody column, but it feels like my brain right now. It's Grease, it's Kyle, it is Z. We got one more spot to do. Kyle's going to tell you about, I believe, FanDuel, and then we're going to talk about the Falcons game coming up next week right here on the show.
NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You can pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What I love about FanDuel is you can play however you like to play, whether that's parlays, player props, live lines during the game. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if it's line what the player prop is for Bijan Robinson rushing yards next week, but my recommendation would be to take the over. Makes watching football that much more exciting when you've got a little bit something on the line for yourself. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
All right, there we go. Didn't mean to leave you out there, Z. Sorry, touchscreen.
It's all right.
For a second there. Well, it's beautiful where you're at, man. Look at that behind Z. Move your head for a second so we can see. There you go. Look at that.
Sun's out.
It's beautiful out there. Sun's out, guns out, man. And what a terrible day in South Florida. What a bad football weekend with the Hurricanes losing their undefeated record against a mid at best Louisville team, and then the Dolphins just laying the worst egg you've seen in a while at the worst possible time. You want to keep seeing fight. You want to keep seeing guys who are battling, and that's getting tougher and tougher right now. And I'm just wondering, and Z, we've already asked you this, but it's tough to get it going again when you're feeling like this. And at least the last few weeks, you can hang your head on something and say, hey, hang your hat on something and say, yo, we did this, we did that. The game was close. We had the lead, but this one, we talked about it earlier. There's not much you can say. You talked about ways you can try to rebound from this, but you got to go on the road again and play a very tough physical Atlanta Falcons team after a game like this. And that's not going to be an easy game. Is it better, you think, to maybe let this one kind of I mean, obviously the best thing in the world would be to have a short memory and just get rid of it and just think, hey, I'm a multimillionaire. I don't care. But I mean, and that happens. I mean, I'm joking about it, but some players feel that way, start to feel that way on a team like this. Tyreek Hill checked out of the game last year, obviously, and he's supposed to be a leader on the team. So that happens. But when it comes to picking yourself back up, it starts with each individual, right? Looking himself in the mirror and having some pride. Then it starts in the position, it keeps going to the position rooms and the groups, each group, taking accountability and worrying about themselves. And then the whole entire unit, is it best to go in that progression, individual, each group, and then the team, or start as a team as a whole from the jump?
You got to start as a team, because that's what it is, a team sport. Again, if you're being individual, you're never going to gel as one, and it's going to get worse. But at the end of the day, these cats got to understand, you don't go out there to embarrass yourself. If you don't prepare like you're going to win every week, you'll get embarrassed fast, just like today. Like, I don't know. I mean, they could have been prepared. I'm not in the building. I'm not around these guys. I have no idea. But it got embarrassing today. And they got to understand, if they don't pick it up, they're playing a better team this week, both sides of the ball. They went against a good defense today, who's done some good things.
Yeah. Not
a very good offense, and they got lit up. You don't get prepared and don't get your mind right for this week, it's going to be a longer day, at the office.
At the office. And Kyle, I mean, look, the Browns defense made Joe Burrow look pretty bad this year, and Jordan Love for that matter. So it's not the first time they did that, and I'm sure I'm going to get killed for this one. Two apologists, the bald guy. But the Falcons are a better team overall. And when I look at that team right now, Atlanta, I mean, they are playing a lot better. They're physical, they're tough, they're strong. The Dirty Birds are dancing again in the ATL. So, I mean, that's going to be a tough one, going in there on the road into a noisy building with a team that's getting better and better with more and more confidence.
Bijan Robinson is going to break some records in this game with the way the Dolphins defense has been prone to explosives, and there's nobody right now that's more explosive than Bijan Robinson, and he's a special talent. And I am very worried about what that's going to look like, because you had a rainy day against a significantly lesser team with a lesser offensive line and a rookie quarterback who's less experienced than Michael Penix. And they still popped runs on you, and they beat you by 25 points. And Raheem Morris is an excellent defensive coach. They've spent a ton of draft picks on that front seven and that pass rush the past couple of years, and Morris has developed those guys, and it shows. I mean, they have a fast, physical, explosive group of pass rushers, guys that are long like James Pierce. Jalen Walker's a really dense guy. Rook Orhoro, the second-round pick out of Clemson, it has become a very productive player for them, and they moved on from Grady Jarrett this offseason. So, I mean, they have fully embraced a youth movement, and Raheem's got those guys hunting. Like, if you watch them play the Bills and Josh Allen last week, my goodness, like, they get after you. And I know the ball will get out quick and all that stuff, and that's really what we're clinging to as well. The play style mitigates the pass rush because the ball gets out quick, but it's a really bad recipe, and you're on the road, and it's probably going to be louder than it was in Cleveland. So
yeah, no doubt.
I don't know where you turn to for answers, but that's why, again, for me, you got to kick up the urgency in the building. And the way that happens is there's got to be some kind of change this week, I think.
Yeah, I said that earlier, and I think so. So you're talking about Bijan, man. He works out with Christian McCaffrey in the offseason, and McCaffrey said you see him in person, it's awe-inspiring. But he joined Thurman Thomas, and that was in 1991. Thurman Thomas, the great dual threat back for the Super Bowl winless Buffalo Bills. Had to throw that out there, give Dolphins a little bit of a smile. 0-4 in a row in that stretch. But Thurman Thomas, hey, 300 yards receiving and 450 yards rushing through 5 games. Robinson joins him as the only players ever with 300 receiving and 450 rushing through 5 games. Even more so for Bijan Robinson. He needs 178 yards against Mac the Niner and San Francisco tonight on Sunday Night Football. He needs 178 yards, guys, to become the first player since the great Marshall Faulk, who, Z, you know really well, playing with him. And you can find me in St. Louis. And that was the year 2000. Marshall Faulk reached 1,000 scrimmage yards through 6 games. And Robinson has a chance to become only the second guy to do that. He's maybe the best player in football. His coach thinks he is. He's averaging 164.4 after rushing for 170 and catching 6 passes for 68 in last week's win over Buffalo, man. Just to put that in perspective, Z, what do you do when you go into a game to try to prepare for a back like that?
You got to go back to the tackling first. That's one of our problems we've had, our tackling. We got to make sure we're gap sound, guys in the right places, and tackle. Don't try to shoulder tackle like today. I think on the first touchdown, I forgot who it was, just dove at the running back instead of wrapping him up, and he sneaked in. We got to tackle. We got to bring these backs down and limit the runs. He's gonna get his runs. He's got to, okay, go to the next play. We can't dwell on it. We can't now start popping, gaps and, shedding too early or whatnot. Because, he's a talented football player. Those guys are going to make their plays. It's just how we respond after he makes them, and move on from there.
I better hope, Kyle, that they don't lose a tough one tonight in Atlanta against San Fran. And Mac Jones playing pretty well, too.
Yeah, Max looks like he's found himself again playing with Kyle Shanahan, where, it was not a very fun time there at the end of New England trying to replace Tom Brady, and they got Matt Patricia calling plays offensively as a former defensive coordinator. And you get away from that kind of structure and you get into playing with Kyle Shanahan. And what's really interesting is how banged up San Francisco's been, where they haven't been having Brandon Ayuk on the field. Ricky Pearsall, their first round wide receiver, has been on and off the field. George Kittle had an IR stint. They're really banged up, and Max throwing to Kendrick Bourne and putting big time numbers up. Yeah. So I've been really impressed with what he's done thus far this season for them.
Yeah, really. And how about Shanahan just turning quarterbacks around? Look at what he did with Sam Darnold for a year there. I mean, if you're having a tough time playing QB in the NFL and not meeting expectations, go back up Purdy for a year and you'll get some big cash after that, Z. And, it's got to be frustrating for Dolph fans looking at that and seeing Shanahan can do that with his quarterbacks and seemingly get anybody to play really quality quarterback in the NFL. And McDaniel, who's supposed to be this guy, could not keep the momentum going with Tua.
Yeah, but again, it took Kyle a while to build that out there. It wasn't like, he just started off that way. I was there for when Kyle's first 2 years. We didn't have a quarterback really, and then we got Jimmy, and he kind of flashed a little bit, so it took a while. He's gone through quarterbacks now, to get to where he's at now. And now he's got the system. We talked about it the other day about, these teams with the system. They just plug people in. So Kyle goes out and he picks people like quarterbacks or running backs that fit his system. They may not fit everybody's system, but they fit his system. Because I know Mac was one of his guys he wanted to draft coming out of college, and they went a different route. Now he got a second chance of getting the kid that he wanted back then, and he fit the system. So he's a perfect backup. He's in, winning games for them when they need it, when Brock's hurt, and he fits the system.
Man, this is tough, but the Falcons at the Niners tonight. We don't know what they're going to do as we're doing this show, and Kyle will be with you all week long on your Locked On Dolphins podcast. We'll be back here on Wednesday with the squad show this week with a midweek edition, but as of right now, man, none of us are feeling too good about this Falcons game. I can feel that. They're going to play a close one tonight. You have to feel in San Fran and maybe lose this one. Then they're coming back home, and the Dolphins are going up there. It looks like another buzzsaw, Kyle. It looks like another really tough game ahead for the Miami Dolphins. It keeps going from bad to worse, which is the thumbnail that you see right there on the YouTube show. And by the way, we download right after this one. We're live on YouTube. Then we go Apple, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast, Roku as well. But as we approach the end of the show, I want to start with you, Kyle, and just get your final thoughts on this game and then heading into the Falcons game before we wrap it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned not feeling good about the Falcons game. I don't think I'm going to find myself in a position to pick the Dolphins to win a game until maybe coming off the bye week with New Orleans and on November 30th is maybe the next game where that's a team that has their own struggles. They have their own ups and downs, but they're a team that's got a quarterback in Spencer Rattler, who's got a new coach in-house, who's getting him to start to play well. So I don't even know there, man. And I'm sure there will be another win somewhere potentially sooner than we think it is on the schedule. But that's kind of out of a game where you lose to the Browns by 25 and look completely unprepared to play the football game. I have some serious irreconcilable differences with this year's team, and interested to see what their response is to a game like this.
Z?
Yeah, same thing. I want to see how they can clean up the penalties. If they can actually play sound football and mistake-free.
I was gonna sell you $100 if you just said I'm Jeff Zgonina. Like you didn't even.
I
it was
should have.
coming. You blew it. It was coming right to you. I had the phone ready. Oh man. I guess my final thought on this one is, man, I know all year long I've stuck up for Tua. He's played some decent games. Coming into this game, he had the second highest quarterback rating in the red zone, the highest completion percentage in the red zone. After this game, anything positive about Tua goes out the window, and you have to wonder if he's going to make it off the field next week without getting killed against that Falcons defense, the way they're protecting him or not protecting him lately, and the way this offense has become so predictable with dink and the dunk, getting guys killed on these short routes, double teaming. I mean, thinking about this, they're double teaming routes in the flat 2 yards off the line of scrimmage because they know this team can't throw the ball down the field. Those guys in Atlanta on that track, in that building, with that crowd, it's just crazy. And I know it's NFL football and anything can happen, but man, oh man, I am not looking forward to seeing that one. Kyle, before we wrap, what do you have coming up on the podcast this week?
I might skip group therapy and do a mock draft tomorrow. I'm undecided on what I'm doing. We'll figure it out. There'll be some group therapy
and do some shots.
Yeah, we'll go down the rabbit hole if we have to. I try not to get into all that stuff like too early in the season, but I have a feeling some people might appreciate a break from just talking about the Browns game and maybe opening a few other talking points and get into some stuff like that. So we'll probably explore a couple different topics early in the week to kind of put the stink of this one behind us. And then we have our squad show upcoming this week, midweek, and then it's turn the page and on to Atlanta.
31-6, they lose. 11 penalties for Miami, 4 turnovers for Miami, and they get smoked by a hapless 1-5 Cleveland Browns team with the Atlanta Falcons on the road. Coming up next, of course, they play tonight at San Francisco. I'm Jim Grieshaber. Call me Grease. That's Kyle Krabs. Z, Jeff Zgonina, thank you for sitting through this with us because we don't have to suffer alone. It has been your Dolphin Squad show on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Until Wednesday, Jim Grieshaber reminding you, as always, to keep your game tight and your mind right. That's the key this week. And if not, you can always do what I said at the beginning of the show and call 988. Thank you for being here. We love you.